Great. So last pitch before the pool. And first of all, I want to say that this is my favorite kind of events where we are few people for a long time. We're having deep conversation, and we need more of this, and that's exactly what we're going to talk about today. And also like more this slow approach. I just basically came back from a cave. I spent 1 month in the south of Italy, just having really slow life. So this is a great transition before going back to Rome and to the traffic, to the city and everything else. So what I want to share about today, it's not a product, it's not a service, it's not a business, it's more a research in progress that me and other people started this year, and it's more the result of many years in, of course, in Web3, but in technology, and especially in Italy. So let's start giving some background. I mean, I think most of us here are remote workers and nomads, and of course I was one of them, I'm still one of them. I just came back to live in Italy in October last year after a few years nomading around the world, so nothing new. And I was of course captured about cities like Lisbon, Singapore, right, that they hold great infrastructure and great opportunities for digital nomads. I don't think Italy is a great place for digital nomads, and we're going to talk about this later. Of course, the weather is fantastic, Mediterranean food and all of the rest, it's amazing. Places like this castle are great, but of course, there is not like an economic and social infrastructure that can really hold. So I started this research inspired by The Network State, which is a great book that Balaji Srinivasan wrote last year. For who doesn't know who Balaji is, he was the CTO of Coinbase, and he was the first crypto investor inside the Andreessen Horowitz team in like 2013. And he wrote this amazing book, which basically says, I also put the definition of a network state here, that we created new currencies, we created new companies, and now we can also create new cities. And I think it's true. I think historically new cities are always born. Just basically what he's saying is that cities today are born before digitally and then are born physically. So a network state is a highly aligned online community with a capacity for collective action, which I think so far it's been the Trip community, right? So you guys you started on Discord, you had online community, now you're getting collective action, you're starting to have activities, work, projects. But the next step is you can also crowdfund territory together. So of course you can use all the amazing crypto tools we have to basically buy together land and around the world. And eventually, and that's, let's say, more the dream of Balaji because it's very far in the future for now, you can get diplomatic recognition from pre-existing states. So you can just become not just if you become a city, you can even, as the picture shows, you basically have cities, you have a state that is not limited by geographical boundaries, right? But it's more or less 30K people live in Italy, 20,000 live in India, and you just basically share a digital infrastructure that holds you together. The best example of a network state so far is Zuzalu, which is a project which was started last year by Vitalik Buterin. So it was like his passion project. He basically took 200 people together to live in Montenegro for a couple of months. And there were people from politics, law, of course, Ethereum, AI. So he basically put together the smartest people he knew in one place for 2 months. The result of this was one of the best, I think one of the really great example of like what does it mean when you take a lot of people together, put them for a prolonged time. So it's not just an event where basically everybody just has a stand and it's trying to like pitch to each other, but it's more like, okay, let's build something together. So I took inspiration from this. Zuzalu this year from Vitalik opened a quadratic funding on Gitcoin. I got funded by this to basically create one of the 30 official spin-offs of Zuzalu in Italy. So literally yesterday, I think, there was a Zuzalu in Georgia. So like 200, 300 people live together with Vitalik and other people in Georgia. So they did another experiment. I still don't have any news about this. I hope I'm going to have them soon. Last year, I also spent a couple of weeks with Zuzalu when they did another event in Istanbul, and that's where I got the opportunity to meet these people and then got some funding to basically starting this research project about, hey, there might be some opportunities for network states in Italy, why not? So I started doing this meetup in Milan in January. So I basically started doing already all the Web3 events in Italy for the last 3-4 years. We did like 50 events in Rome, Milan, Naples. So I had time to like nurture and work together with all the like community leaders and projects in the different regions in Italy. So I tried to gather them together and say, hey guys, what does a network state would look like in Italy? What's like the situation, like political situation in Italy, technological situation in Italy? Let's try to do something. And I think the biggest inspiration for me this year was I always wanted to make a startup. Now, I don't kind of want to make a startup as a private company. I rather want to create kind of a public institution. So I would like to make, like Vitalik says, I would like to make public goods, like cool, again, I was really influenced by the, let's say, the Ethereum philosophy and ethics, and in general, this is what really Web3 gives me. It's like a lot of inspiration. So I started this research, and I mean, we're gonna link it later. That link over there, I don't want to open now because otherwise it will be taking some time, but I have a QR code later. So those are the stakeholders I've been researching. So I basically like put myself in the car because I was back in Italy. Of course, I wanted to travel, but like before I was traveling to like New York, Singapore, now I was traveling like Florence, Milan, south of Italy. I think I've been visiting so far like 14 regions out of 20, and I've been meeting with all these stakeholders. So first of all, institutions. Okay. So what's going on in Italy? Like, what are kind of the incentives for digital nomads? What are the incentives for digital in general, innovation? I've been going to some innovation hubs. This picture over here, it's close to Rome, and it's super nice innovation hub. Like they do like aerospace startups, incubators. So of course, we're not talking about Web3 here because like Italy, apart from some people in this room and few others which are not in this room, doesn't have like Web3 hubs. It just has maybe Web 1.5 hubs and some incubators. So I've been going to universities. A lot of universities in Italy has like incubators. They do a lot of research. I've been discovering how much knowledge it's been locked in universities. It's crazy. They have a program which is called technology transfer, which basically it's a bridge between startups and universities to take like 50 years of research to then create startups. They are completely unable to do so. So I think this is going to be an opportunity for some together. I've been, of course, meeting communities, not just in Web3, because we already knew each other, but more like, I don't know, some communities, people are doing like regeneration of like the territory. They are like, and of course, some of this regeneration, it's happening in the borghi. So for who is not from Italy, maybe you guys don't know that this is called a borgo in where we are right now. It's a name that we used to say, I don't know, maybe you guys can explain, a small town, let's say, because it comes from the medieval age. So there are thousands of these all over Italy. And some of them survived, like this place, so they turned into like wedding and event place. Some of them are dying. And indeed, I started to map what are the real problems in Italy about some of these places. The population, of course, which is correlated to aging. Italy is the second oldest country in the world after Japan. So we're not making kids anymore like we were doing before because the economy is broken, there are not incentives, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of these amazing places have been depopulated. Again, some of them are making it, but usually they're making it more in the summer. I wonder why we're not doing this event, for example, in January, because it might be maybe too cold to do this year. So it's great to be in Italy in summer. It's great to be a place for vacation, but not maybe as a place for living. And of course, Italy is leading digital literacy. Like we're talking about Web3 because we are well educated and we enjoy this, but of course, I mean, when I dropped out university because we didn't even use laptops. So that's basically the situation of when I was doing business administration in Rome. And then, of course, we are lacking infrastructure. So, I mean, the road to come here was pretty good, and that's how I like. Also, you know, getting into the wild a bit. But if you go in the south of Italy, you don't have Wi-Fi. That's why I said I was basically living in a cave. Of course, we have Starlink, but there are not incentives to use Starlink. And infrastructure like trains, it's not like, you know, you get in Lisbon, you get an Uber, €5, you're in the center. Here is you get to the airport, you spend €80, you maybe get a taxi that beside the road, and then you don't find any like digital nomads hubs, you don't have this kind of situation. I know that a lot of people here, that's where I've been living along the world, right? Hey, great, I can land and I can find a community. This is not happening in Italy. So, what are the opportunities at this time that I see by solving those problems? Imagine if we lived in this place for a month, what will happen? So after the first 3 days of events, where we are like hanging out and knowing each other and inspiring each other, what will happen if we live here in Titignano for 6 months, 1 year? What could we do? Maybe one of us has like, I don't know, can do a website. Maybe the Titignano Castle doesn't have a great website, so maybe one of us could actually work to redo this website. This is just one of the examples. So of course you gotta create jobs, like, because otherwise people are not incentivized to come in Italy. Nobody comes in Italy to work. People just come in Italy for like vacation or maybe work from remote when you have like a good salary from abroad. So that's some of the opportunities I started to see in Italy. Like if we can solve some of this problem, and of course this is a work that has to be done with the institutions, with many stakeholders that will take a lot of time, we can actually create permanent innovation hubs in these beautiful villages in Italy for digital talents and international talents, like some of them are here today. But that's just the beginning. Like I really feel that some of these places could actually become incubators for these projects, because that's what really holds these people in the long term. Because again, everybody now is coming for like 3 days, but what holds you in the long term, it's really connecting you with the social and economic support. And that's why, and that's the last picture over there, I lived in a farm in Italy over the last days. That's a great example. So there is Antonio, which is this guy. He's from US, but originally his grandfather and grandmother are from Italy. He's a blockchain guy, like he's an investor and he's also a developer. He now lives in this farm in Sicily, and he's basically using Gitcoin to crowdfund money into the land so that these guys can now plant avocados, and they are creating a new culture of avocados. I don't know if you know, but the most of avocados in Italy are coming from abroad. Sicily, it's a great place to cultivate avocados. So these guys are creating these, they're making avocados. And so that's, for me, the example of like where technology meets real life and meets real needs that are this kind of needs in Italy. Because, I mean, made in Italy food, it's great, but there are many backdrops in the made in Italy food farm culture. We're not going to talk about now, but the reality, it's not the way it looks. And the other place in the middle, it's Liminal Village. This is all picture that I got, except for the first one, because I still cannot fly. But the second one was, it's from Liminal Village, which is a place in the Marche region, which is great, because this guy, Roberto, is already creating some examples of like co-living together, taking people all over the world. When they are there, they kind of take some time to really create an impact on the local land. So, we don't need to create new cities in Italy. I mean, maybe we need to create new cities. Dubai, it's a new city, okay, because it was in the middle of the desert. But we do actually, because at the beginning I said, I would like to create a city, but I don't want to create a new city. I'd rather use those that are already there and give them more regeneration and perhaps an updated digital administration. And of course, that's where Web3 comes in, because what I believe will make really sense, it will have communities like this that are they have a village, they own a village, of course. We can talk about real world assets in here, like we can buy this land with tokens, everybody has a share, we have a multi-property, and so we can like make money over this thing together, and we can also use all the governance and administration tools legally to administrate these kind of villages with a DAO. So how this is going to take off? Imitating Zuzalu and similar projects, because now there is, for example, you can look for Prospera, which is in Honduras, there is Crecimiento, which is in Argentina, and many of them are basically all trying the old model. I'm going to start some pilots where people are gonna live together for some time. I will start the first one with like the Web3 community leaders. They're gonna live together for some time in these locations in nature. They're gonna try out some models of like, okay, how this is work. And of course, we're still at the early beginning. But the goal is to scale, to have different pilots in these regions. Now I have already a list of many of these places which can hold. And go to from like 20 people for 1 week to maybe 200 people. Which initially is what I wanted to do, but it's super crazy hard to like have 200 people living together for 2 months. So really kudos to these projects all over the world. We're already doing this. And the goal, of course, it's sharing knowledge between these cities, these towns, and bring more to real life what is this digital innovation. That's why I call the project Digitalia, because I think it's a name that really speaks to everybody, to like people who have absolutely no understanding of crypto and people who have more understanding on this. So the goal is going like from pop-up to permanent, from one to many, and to transform these places in Italy from disconnected, which they are right now, to interconnected. Zuzalu, for example, is creating a software platform which is in development, which is called Zuzalu City, which is basically a digital public goods administration for example, the finances, the taxes, the events, everything that is happening inside these events. So imagine that you take like public administration, governments, and you put them like on-chain digitally, and you're basically recreating all this software for managing it. Because the problem with now, especially with that, it's high bureaucracy for doing anything. And because it's not digitally. And I think we're done. This is QR code of the research which I made, where there are much more details. There are all the names, even the name of Luca and this guy is over here. So you can point fingers on people. And happy to discuss now if you guys have any questions.
I got a question.
Or later. Oh, yeah.
So which one of the network state projects do you think is most advanced?
Zuzalu, which is the one started from Vitalik, and then there is Prospera, which is in Honduras. So basically, Prospera came from a lot of VCs from Silicon Valley, which spent enormous amount of money to buy this plot of land in Roatan, and they created a special economic zone, so kind of like San Marino, Singapore, the Vatican. So they splitted this part of land from the rest of Honduras, and so they have like complete autonomously, like they're running this city, and they transformed it into a biotech hub. So they're doing research on longevity, biotech science, and wherever you go there, all the time of the year, you have the opportunity to like try out a new kind of medicine. You have the opportunity to meet like investors if you have a startup on this place. So it's a really active hub. But they also got skyrocketed by the model of Zuzalu, because it's really, I mean, this is not hard to do this kind of pilots. Okay, you just like gather people together for a long time and things started to happen. So I think I would say these two, but there are a few others over there. Others? Great.
No, I have I'm not sure that, so the why, right? why do we need a network state? I think I was talking with you guys in the car yesterday about this, right? So why do we need network states? And it's because everything else sucks in a way. Like there was a time when the best country to go was the United States, and now the United States is kind of falling apart, or basically it's getting worse. Europe is aging. Japan is great. I've been the first time there, but it's not the future, it's the past. Where do you go, right? Where do you go? Where do you move away from your country, you go somewhere, and there's nowhere to go, honestly, where you can plan for the future. And I think the new America is the internet. That's where all the opportunity is, all the money is, all the job is. And I'm trying to understand a network state. Is the network state trying to give you some kind of more concrete place? Like, it's basically an internet thing, right? An internet creature, on chain, online. But you can also have a specific place where when you're there, even if it's not connected, contiguous connected on the land, you are living on the internet in an internet country, but you also have the local part of it. So I want to know actually how you're thinking about that.
No, it's more like imagine you have a passport, so you have the Italian passport that, and you are Italian when you are in Italy, right? Imagine you have like tomorrow, I don't know, there is the Zuzzalu passport, right? And which is actually already there because when we were in Zuzzalu, we had Zuzzalu passport, and imagine that there are, instead of like, okay, you go to India, you go to China, yeah? There is like a small Zuzzalu all over the world. So there are this kind of special economic zone. And actually in some of these places, of course, they're mining crypto because they have a completely like unregulated legislation or like a regulated legislation for crypto. So it's more like if you, it's really a double identity because already we have a digital identity with crypto that might come to life. That you have your physical or like digital passport that says, okay, I'm Italian, but I'm also a Zuzzalian, and so I can travel the world and have specific rights in these in this part of the world. Like today, you go to like crypto hubs, but they're just like co-workings, right?
Yeah, but there's this Liberland between Croatia and Serbia, but then as soon as the Croatian police decides you have to leave, you leave. So I'm wondering, at the end you need guns. I mean. A government is a state is a state because they have guns. They write the law and everything, but you need guns to protect them. So you're sitting in Montenegro, is Zuzzalu?
Yes,
right?
But it was a pop-up, so it was not permanent.
It's gone. Okay, let's say you open a new one in Italy, and then I don't know, you do your own laws, I suppose, but then they're not going to care about you when there's 20 people. And when there's 20,000 people, they're going to come and say, okay, here VAT is 22%, tax is 50%, you can do this, you can do that. How do you protect yourself? How do you make this like real? You see what I mean?
Yeah,
right?
absolutely. Yeah. No, there was a speech about this also on the Network State conference. There was that guy that said, sooner or later, you guys going to fight this war. I mean, of course, I don't know. I don't have the answer for this. That's why I'm focusing on the pilots, which I believe it's more useful to Italy. So first of all, in Italy, we need more innovation and digital innovation. Then I can say, for example, what I've seen happening in Prospera, the only way these guys could survive, actually, is just by spending an infinite amount of money.
Valerio here is telling me Prospera is basically done. Prospera is basically done.
I remember they were having a lot of problem with the government because there was some misunderstanding between what they thought they could do and what they can actually do. So, I mean, the reality is probably they go to this country because they need to attract investors, money, whatever, and they promise a lot, but then maybe if you actually do what you want, then you start having problem with the local government because it maybe is too much, like an economic special zone or whatever.
They basically solve the problem by giving money to the government, giving jobs to other Honduras people, and of course they're living on the edge. They might die one day or another.
Yeah. The reality is the same question like we did for, I forgot the name. How can this be legal? I mean, of course you always find country to give you like safe harbor, but then you're very limited there, and until the next politician comes and may agree with you or not. So it is difficult to integrate in the real world, even though the idea can be cool.
Well, the closest thing to this, it's a special economic zone, and they already exist. So Prospera, it's more like a special economic zone, which is like super powered by crypto and by some maybe good ethics about the stuff we are all doing. So I think that's the way they incorporate it.
Just one thing real quick. I feel like everybody's doing like a SWOT analysis for you, you know, right?
Please.
Yeah. But I mean, awesome idea. I love like the approach and where you're thinking of it too, right? And I almost feel like you're trying to compete with like incubators, accelerator, venture studios, and you need something to drive the niche of like, hey, just come and we're going to just organically innovate and things will happen. Right, like some of the design has to be like very intentional how you administer it, and if you're able to leverage either this ecosystem or other ecosystems or networks that you have to be able to have people that are going to help with the incubation process, right? So if there is startups that's going to be, or a potential founder that's going to be there, and the kind of workshop you're going to be able to do. So basically what I'm trying to drive at is what are the value proposition you're going to be able to service, provide in comparison to what if I'm a digital nomad, I have a digital visa for Italy, and I just go to some incubator or accelerator instead where they have very knowledgeable and experienced people that can really give me a lot of value versus going to where you're at. So kind of look at that as well.
Like that's why at the beginning I thought that like for sure, like for example, Prospera turned into an incubator, but I mean, me myself, I don't have the experience to run an incubator, so definitely will be more people. But I think at the beginning it will be more about like leveraging this sense of community which was built over the last years in Italy, because there are really great guys in Rome, in Milan, in Sicily, and they are starting to like turn to say, okay, how can we like, because some of them make some money, they make some influence over this, like how can we like drive this and be more permanent? For example, I cannot say the city, but soon there will be like the first like Web3 hub in Italy. So there will be like a place where at least these like Web3 people and nomads can gather more together. And then I think from here to like really becoming an incubator, it's gonna take some time. So yes, I think that maybe just to do the last thing you said, like you said, you're doing competition with incubators. That's also true, but I think the main competition like a network states want to make is really to like create kind of a parallel administration. And historically, this happened in a way. For example, when like the Roman Empire was falling and all these like small towns in Italy were falling, it was like the church that took over these places and kind of parallelly over the years, because there are really a lot of places which are like abandoned. So there might be an opportunity, but we'll never know.
I would like just to add something, if it's possible. I mean, as I said, I'm coming from revenue management, so I learn from my mistakes. So I can give you a tip. Just try to study the example we had already in Italy in 1968 that was called Isola delle Rose.
Yes,
that was a platform. Actually, talking about the guns, the military, the Navy came back there and they destroyed everything. I mean, the purpose was different. Sex, alcohol, and drugs. But actually, it's a sort of innovators. It's a sort of innovators,
Of course, he's studying. It was great.
Now he's pivoting. You should have said that.
Now I'm going on to the sea. No, but I watched the movie also on Netflix. Super, super nice movie.